My name is John Crichton.
My name is John Crichton. My name is John Crichton. Look upward and share the wonders I've seen.
Don't do that at me.
What?
That.
I can't help it. The sound frequency's doing something to my eye. Feels like it's melting my brain. Couldn't actually be doing something to my brain, could it?
Hello, and welcome to episode number 6 of the ScapeCast, your guide to the wonders of Farscape. I'm your co-host, Lindy Ray.
And I'm Kevin Batchelder. On this episode of the ScapeCast, we're going to have
a segment on sci-fi as the jazz of literature,
another great Farscape episode review in the form of our heckling from the balcony,
the second part of the interview with the world-famous Vitter Lithium doll,
a bunch of our regular features like trivia and news,
and Ema's back for more Tralk talk.
And of course, we'll hear our listeners' answers to our question of the week.
This show's spoiler level is
Peacekeeper Wars.
So Kevin, how are you doing? Have you been able to watch any more of our Farscape episodes this week?
Yes, I have, Lindy. As a matter of fact, I have finished season 4.
Oh my.
Yes. Oh my, gasp time.
Oh my gosh. So you saw bad timing? I
saw bad timing. Yes, I did.
Can you understand now what's going on with like the entire Scaperdom?
Oh goodness, yes. I kind of, I had a sense, obviously, and it was, what do I say? It was great, but it was also such a deep sadness at the same time, I mean, they had a great part on that DVD of the, about the Save Farscape campaign and the extras, and it was like a half hour long, and that helped a lot being able to watch that, to hear some of the other Scapers and how they got all the campaigns going around that time too, but that was something. So yes, I have finished the regular seasons of Farscape.
Wow. Well, congratulations. And all I got to say is, imagine now if you didn't know what was going to happen and there was no promise of a future.
Yep. No, I can. That's why, I definitely can do that. That blank DVD.
Yeah, you have a while. You need at least a good 30 days.
Yeah,
you need
to
absorb things.
Yeah, absorb, really. Okay.
Yeah.
It won't be 30, I guarantee you that.
I know, I'm going to leave town, and then you're just going to go sneak off behind my back and open that case.
I will wait at least a week. I mean, I'll give it that. I'll let it kind of savor for a week, but I can't guarantee you anything more than that. I mean, I've had my Friday night viewings now that I've been doing all along going.
You whippersnappers just got to have that instant gratification.
Yeah, I know. Today's DVD age, what do we expect? It's just the way things work.
Yeah.
Well, the cool thing I mentioned in a couple of episodes, too, folks, was our Frapper map, where we have the listeners making a note of whereabouts they are in the world. And I took a look at that, shortly before our show, and numbers are increasing there, which is great. It's kind of cool to see everybody all around. And I think the newer countries that have got folks standing in to say we're here since our last show are Ireland and Spain. So we're definitely getting the ScapeCast all around the world now, which is very cool. And now we have for you Ema, this time with Mr. Hoople. And this episode's word.
Doggo, you should study this. LMNOPQ. Just a few of their words, just in case.
Jana has already told me a few words. Yes, no, bite me. That's all I need to know.
Hi, I'm Ema. Welcome to Tralk Talk. Today I'm going to Mr. Hoople's store to buy a present for my friend Orville. Hi, Mr. Hoople.
Hello, Ema. How are you?
Just fine, Mr. Hoople. I'm looking for a music album to give to Orville the slightly annoyed. He really likes the album A Bargain Out of His Mana. Do you have that album?
I've heard that phrase before. Didn't your friend Rigel say it once?
Blasted out of there like a barkin out of his mana.
Do you know what a barkin is, Ema?
Yes, I do, Mr. Hoople. They are like Hody and Trillbats, aren't they? We learned all about Hody and Trillbats last episode.
You learn fast. Do you know what Hesmana is?
No. Should I?
Hesmana is a very hot place where snowballs don't stand a chance.
A very warm place?
Hotter than that. Rigel also has a word to say the same thing.
It's hotter than squag.
Hotter than a sauna?
Even hotter.
Do you mean H-E double hockey sticks?
Yes, Ema. I mean H-E double hockey sticks.
Oh. That should make Orville the slightly annoyed really happy then.
Here you go, Ema. Are you sure you don't want to buy a Jim Steinman Hooplehead doll for Orville as well?
The album should be enough. Thanks, Mr. Hoople. Bye.
You're welcome. Bye, Ema.
Welcome to this episode's Farscape Trivia Question. In the Season 1 episode of Human Reaction, when John bursts into the men's room, two men inside look at him oddly. Now those are not just two ordinary extras. Do you know who those two men were? We'll have the answer at the end of the show. For the ScapeCast, I'm Brent Barrett.
So Kevin, happy Serenity Day, or belated Serenity Day. How was it?
Well, I heard it was really great all around the country, and Browncoat's getting together to help some charities. I myself couldn't attend because of some work commitments, which was too bad, but I do know that the folks all around the country and in several spots around the world are raising quite a bit of money for Joss Whedon's favorite charity, Equality Now. At last count, I think they had numbers from about half the theaters so far, because the event just happened the other day, and they were up over, I think it was $47,000 so far, which is really cool.
Holy cow, that is amazing. Well, you know what they say, brown coats have greenbacks, so good luck with that.
Now we're going to have to find a way to get some Farscape stuff done out there in the theaters and such.
Yeah,
viewings of episodes or something. That would be awesome, huh?
Yeah, I would like to see that.
Attention, there are opportunities all around you. Opportunities to help spread the Scaper word around the world. The ScapeCast Beacon, a call to all Scapers to mobilize. Help is needed at the Farscape fan table at Toronto Trek. Bandana Girl is organizing the table, but she could use some help. Attention Washington, Pacific Northwest, and Alberta area Scapers. Farscape needs your support. KAYU Fox 28 has moved Farscape from Saturday afternoon till Sunday morning for the rest of June and all of July. Please write to the advertisers who air commercials during Farscape's time slot and let them know how much you appreciate their support. Attention artistic and creative Scapers. Create your own Farscape Television Without Pity banner ad to help publicize Television Without Pity's recaps of Farscape. Television Without Pity is holding a contest for these banner ads, and there may be prizes at some point. Scapers are encouraged to visit the Television Without Pity website, read the reviews, and click on the advertisers to show their support for Farscape. There's a new clamshell video challenge over at Terra Firma. This time, the bidders have been challenged to produce a trailer for one of the seasons of Farscape or Peacekeeper Wars. Check our show notes for more information. This has been the ScapeCast Beacon, a call to all Scapers to mobilize.
What is Farscape? By Mike from the UK, aka Jarek. Farscape is a journey of a single human into the unknown, and how he finds what we all at some point look for. All alone, surrounded by strangers, he finds friends, companions, enemies, and a love so strong and deep that everything before it pales into insignificance. It's a story about how hope, compassion, and faith in others can stand against the darkness and lift even the lowest to heights they could never even dream of. That is the heart and soul of Farscape. Yet there is more, far more, but it will take an age to do it justice. So let's look at what it isn't. It's not as dated as Buck Rogers. It's not as cheesy as the original Battlestar, nor as cold as the new Battlestar. It lacks a male lead with an ego the size of a Greek god, and developed more of its story and characters in the first season than Earth Final Conflict did in 5. It doesn't have the techno-babble of Trek, any Trek, or the reliance on a MacGuffin or totally new device to save the day, as Stargate does too often. And finally, it's not as depraved as Lex. Just as a side note, all the shows I mentioned have a place in my sci-fi loving heart. So to recap, strong character development, solid stories, and a genuine warmth makes Farscape the show which was not forgotten by the fans or those who created it. It's almost as good as Firefly.
Wrong answer!
Pilot, let's get the hell out of here. Jarek out.
Our next segment is entitled Science Fiction is the Jazz of Literature by Mark Vollebeck.
It has been said that science fiction is the jazz of literature. I can think of no better example of this than Farscape. The good old Merriam-Webster refers to jazz as being characterized by propulsive syncopated rhythms, varying degrees of improvisation, and often deliberate distortions of pitch and timbre. Farscape's first season's strongest trait, right from the very beginning, is that of fast-paced, greatly varied storytelling that is always a beautiful distortion of traditional science fiction elements. After establishing the basic framework of the series in premiere, Farscape jumps into IET, an interesting riff on the traditional First Contact story. First, Farscape shifts around the point of view to make our human protagonist into the alien. Second, we get the Spielberg assumptions from the aliens he encounters. No, not War of the Worlds Spielberg, the older one, the lights and music Close Encounters one. Sorry, but this alien is not here to share secrets of enlightenment with you. He is here because he needs something. Not always pretty, but always honest. That is our show. When we get to Throne for a Loss, Farscape is ready to tackle a story about bickering over the warrior's weapon of choice within another story that really lets Rigel showcase his personality and his rose with thorns charm. We also have a gauntlet that fires energy blasts as well as infusing the wearer with an addictive drug that heightens adrenaline levels. It doesn't take a doped-up Olympian to realize that all that testosterone is going to lead to trouble, which inevitably leads to John, Aaron, and Dargo beating the living Hesmana out of each other as they suffer extreme irritability from the drug, fighting not only each other, but the kidnappers as well. The final line of the episode also sums up another difference in Farscape's storytelling approach. "No sermons," says Zan. "You won't find them in Farscape." Back and back and back to the future gives the old time travel / time loop notion the Farscape treatment. Not only does the episode suggest that science is a tool rather than a solution, and a dangerous tool at that, but we also have John coming face to face with rape. As the Scapers say, this ain't your granddaddy sci-fi. Thank God It's Friday Again is the first real gem of bodily function humor and a touch of gross-out humor. Now before you dismiss that statement, think about it. I mean, really think about it. How many programs have you seen do bodily function jokes and it's just left you bored? Or worse, disgusted? Well, thank God it's Friday. Take a sampling of an Orwellian society, add a farming element, and for a dash of color give Rigel an explosive urination scene. We have anti-governmental plots involving symbiotic worms. I mean, this is science fiction at its best. Oh, and Dargo has sex too, in case you're interested in that kind of thing. Now, nothing fosters interest in a show like a mystery, right? Well, cue up the DVD player for that old black magic. Okay, so here we get a run-of-the-mill, overly powerful sorcerer baddie who's enslaved a population. Nothing too original about that. But now who's going to face him? No, not our astronaut. He's too busy fighting Krace in a labyrinth of death. This is the episode where the story of Zan takes a sharp left turn. She takes on a powerful sorcerer, not afraid of him, but rather afraid of what devastating power lies within her. Zan is the real wild card of the group, and in this episode Ricky Manning gives us just enough taste to leave us salivating for the next clue. If that were not enough, we now have a fleshing out of Captain Krace as more than just a one-dimensional villain, showcasing his relationship with his now-dead brother in greater detail. Rhapsody in Blue brings us even further into the mystery that is Zan. We've all seen the story of the peace-loving aliens with their spiritual disposition, but in this case not only are they corrupt, they are also ruthless. Furthermore, we have a brilliantly crafted set of scenes where John's reality is completely frailed by the Delvians, and John finds himself violated once again. This episode is brilliant in showcasing how the most seemingly centered character of the crew is in actuality so dangerously close to the edge. If that is Zan's reality, then how near the edge are the others? In a human reaction, Farscape pays the ultimate homage. What show has not done, at some point, the return home episode that turns out not to be? Again, the Spielberg influence is present as we have themes of isolation and interrogation. But the tragedy, despite being fabricated, is heartrending. Can any of us ever forget seeing a dissected Rigel? Or seeing John introducing Aaron to his father? But by the end of the episode, an important seed has been sown toward the overall plot, and the John and Aaron dynamic has changed. Another strength of Farscape, there is no reset button here. Experiences, good or bad, build on each other. Bone to be Wild is one of the final episodes of the season and is a true hidden gem starring the beautiful Francesca Bueller. The crew embarks on a rescue mission, unsure of whom to rescue. They are befriended by Emily, whom they assume they should be rescuing, except she eats bones. Any bones. Yours will do. But then they find the scientist Bernie, whom they think they should really be rescuing, except that his people brought Emily and her people to the planet in the first place to rid it of all animal life, and then left them to starve when the food supply was exhausted. Not to mention that Bernie tries to add Zan to his botany collection. This is another episode where science and ethics are examined with that Farscape twist. What could be more innocuous than a botanist looking for medical cures in the rainforest? Except not. The episode ends after the crew have escaped back to Moya, with a great scene as Scorpius unsuspectingly extends the hand of friendship to Emily. These are just a few of the examples of Season 1's brilliant job of turning those old sci-fi cliches on their heads, and those of us who have seen further know that it doesn't end here. A heist episode, exploding oil-covered moons, a time travel story, mad scientists, even cartoons. The book has been rewritten, and its name is Farscape.
There was some really great music with that segment. It's Del Paxton's Time to Blow. So, Kevin, does Farscape remind you of jazz?
I don't know. That's a heck of a good question. That's why this segment got me thinking a bit. I'd have to say, I guess it does to a certain degree. It's all together, but sounding independent is the way I kind of listen to that. And I've been told I have an odd music ear, so I won't take up too much time talking about that. But it certainly saw the nice interaction of the instruments as well as the characters to me.
Yeah, I think the characters' interaction makes up the good back and forth, and the fact that they riff in so many different directions on so many different themes, like she said in the article. It was very cool.
That's the great thing about it, being able to see it from the many different sides of things.
I'm Wendy Hembrock with the news. Two interviews of Paul Goddard are online. In one interview, he talks about what made Farscape so interesting as an actor, saying it provided the opportunity to play in a world where anything was possible and required the actors to transcend the mundane. He contrasted guest starring on a medical show where all he did was lie in bed with tubes up his nose and said, quote, "If it had been Farscape, the tubes would have been pumping some kind of character-transforming drug into my system, and pretty soon all hell would have broken loose, as in the episode where Stark is attached to Talon." Paul also discusses his new CD called Move, which he describes as smooth acid jazz. In his second interview, Paul said the title song, Move, the centerpiece of the record, was recorded when he had just moved to Homebush Bay to work on Farscape. He calls Move, quote, "the coolest, sexiest, clubbiest track with an elegantly simple motif." Paul also discusses how making music is different from acting, the major difference being that with acting there are many starts and stops with TV and film. With music there's more flow to the process. A new Lonnie Tupu interview is available on Frown Me Dead discussing his artwork. Lonnie also discusses the differences between acting and his work as a visual artist. He comments on the approach he uses to painting, his favorite painters and influences, and balancing out art projects with acting projects. The July issue of Stargate magazine has a 4-page interview of Ben Browder discussing his second season working on Stargate SG-1, including how he approaches his character of Cameron Mitchell. And there's a 2-page centerfold of Ben. Not that kind of centerfold. Smutty minds. Jim Henson's legacy continues as his designs may be developed into clothing, educational toys, and games, says Lisa Henson, the co-CEO of the Jim Henson Company. The Henson Company has paired up with 4Kids Entertainment to develop merchandise based on Henson's designs. Apparently, Jim Henson left behind sketches that were absolute products. Monster-shaped lunchboxes, baby chairs with creature arms and legs. Maybe they've got some designs for a 4-armed pilot who can dust, vacuum, and do laundry. The website Television Without Pity has begun the recaps of Farscape episodes. The recap for the episode IET is now available. Check the link in our show notes to read the recaps that are currently available. And now for the convention report. Gigi Edgley and Kent McCord will appear at Shore Leave in Baltimore, Maryland on July 7th through the 9th. Toronto Trek in Toronto, Canada will be held July 7th through the 9th and will feature a Farscape fan table. And as the Beacon mentioned, Scapers are needed to help with staffing the fan table. Gigi Edgley and David Franklin will appear at Comic-Con in San Diego, California, July 20th through the 23rd. Gigi and David will also appear at Timeless Destinations near Vancouver, British Columbia, on July 31st through August 6th. Timeless Destinations will include a Farscape fan table featuring our own Nicola Wood and Lindy Ray. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Steven Spielberg is in negotiations to work on a new sci-fi adventure focusing on a band of explorers that jump into another dimension through a wormhole. Gee, that sounds like Farscape. Spielberg will be relying on physicist Kip Thorne's theory of gravity fields and black holes as the scientific underpinnings of the story. As with other sci-fi films such as Close Encounters, E.T., AI, and Jurassic Park, expect Spielberg to bring an innovative approach to the genre. Brian Henson directs the first episode in Stephen King's miniseries Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Henson directed the episode titled Battleground starring William Hurt, which premieres on July 12th on TNT. And finally, look for Rayleigh Hill in Superman Returns, which opens in the US and Australia this week. And that's the news. I'm Wendy Hembrock for the ScapeCast.
Wow, we're getting some real jazz here this episode, Lindy, with that segment we had earlier, and also that smooth acid jazz from Paul Goddard's new CD.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear it. I have it on order. And I will also say, that Spielberg guy, he is so behind the times. If he is just now coming up with a wormhole adventure, turn on the TV, Stevie.
Maybe we should have a Farscape patent on that or something, so he's got to pay us some royalties. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'll talk to Brian about that.
Yeah, I'll get my lawyers involved.
Okay, good. Here's our newest crew member, Sammy Moore, with a recap of FedCon, which is Europe's greatest Trek and sci-fi convention. Oh, and by the way, I went to the homepage for FedCon, and there was this really cool picture of them all standing on a set from Star Trek Next Generation, and they're all leaning to the left. It's pretty funny. Anyway, here's Sammy's report.
So what is FedCon? Though it was started solely as a Star Trek convention in 1993, FedCon has since progressed to become the biggest fan-run sci-fi convention in Europe. Every year the convention welcomes more than 4,000 sci-fi addicts from all over Europe to enjoy a multitude of almost 24 guests from all sci-fi, fantasy, and mystery genre, old and new alike. 2004 marked the year in which FedCon welcomed its first Farscape guest, Virginia Hay. Despite the common assumption that there are no Farscape fans in Germany at all, and that the show has died a long time ago, it was part due to the audience's reaction Virginia Hay received in 2004, and the constant requesting and pleading from fans, that in 2006, FedCon once again announced a Farscape guest in their lineup. From May 19th to the 21st, 2006, the convention welcomed Gigi Edgley as one of their 23 celebrity guests. I had the pleasure of being able to attend the convention for the whole weekend. While I was a bit worried that Gigi was scheduled opposite big headliners like Walter Koenig and George Takei from the original Star Trek, I must say that my worries were not justified at all. Saturday marked the day of Gigi's first panel. While the main stage had a capacity of holding up to 4,000 attendees at once, the smaller room that stars like Gigi Edgley, Gary Jones, and Dean Haglund were assigned to offered seats for only about 400. I was pleasantly surprised to see this room almost three-quarter filled, while on the main stage one of the big Star Trek panels was taking place at the same time. This was something I had not expected in a country that is said to have practically non-existent Farscape fanbase. During the 45-minute panel, guests not only learned things about Gianna, the character, but also about Gigi, the person behind the makeup. If you ever had the opportunity to see Gigi Edgley live on stage, you immediately realize how much Gigi is actually like Gianna and the other way around. She is a person who can never stay still, who has so much energy inside her that one can only understand that the daily 3-hour makeup routine to turn Gigi into Gianna had to be almost a torture for her. The only thing she ever complained about, though, was the one thing that quickly became Gianna's trademark, the reason behind the sudden and quirky moves Cinnabari Alien became famous for. Here's the simple explanation. The contact lenses Gigi had to wear gave her tunnel vision, and she couldn't do anything else but turn her head in each and every direction if she wanted to see what was going on around her. After she had shared her little secrets about Gianna with the audience, Gigi also told a few things about the Farscape co-stars. When she was asked to describe any of the other actors with one adjective, it took her a little while to come up with one for the first name thrown at her, Ben Browder. She ended up describing him as spunky, Claudia Black as elegant, and Anthony Simcoe as plain goofy, all perfect matches for those three. Another question she was asked was which her favorite episodes were. Gigi answered immediately that she had two. The Season 1 episode Durka Returns, because it was the first time she ever got to play on the Farscape set, and the Season 4 episode John Quixote, because the plot was so twisted and messed up that it was more than just fun to play a different side of Gianna after 3 years. Sunday was the last day of the con, as well as the day of Gigi's second panel, and the room was packed. There were no empty seats to find anywhere. People sat on the floor between rows, had lined up in double rows against the walls, and blocked the 4 double-door entrances and the complete hallway outside. It was overwhelming. Gigi showed part of her DVD reel, which she uses for auditions, and gave the audience a glimpse at the diversity of roles she has played over the years. Of course, no role seemed to be as important as Gianna when the Q&A part of the panel began. One question was the story behind why Neri became Gianna's brother. Gigi said that Neri was supposed to be Gianna's sister when she got the script for the Season 2 episode Taking the Stone for the first time. Since this whole episode is based on Gianna's emotions and feelings, she tried to get into the right mood by thinking about her sister in real life as Neri and how she would react. That somehow didn't work though. However, the moment she thought about her younger brother as Neri, the emotions just started to flow. She approached the writers and asked if it was possible to make Neri Gianna's brother, and they agreed. And have you ever wondered if that fire twirling you saw Gianna do in the Season 3 episode Scratch and Sniff was just some cool CGI effects? It was not. It was 100% pure Gigi Edgley. It was actually put into the episode after the producers saw a fire twirl on the set in her free time. The highlight of the day, of course, was the closing ceremony, during which Gigi fire twirled in front of about 4,000 attendees. It was an amazing thing to witness. There is more to tell, but so little time, so hop on over to the ScapeCast website to read a more in-depth report about the FedCon 15 events. For the ScapeCast, this is Sammy Moore.
You don't write, you don't phone. Typical. The comms are always open at the ScapeCast. Call our voicemail at 206-350-MOYA. That's 206-350-6692. Come on, talk to us.
And now we have the conclusion to Kevin's interview with Lithium Doll. If you missed the first part of this segment, it was in episode 5 of the ScapeCast.
Maybe for the sake, especially for the bidders who are listening, what kind of are your tools of the trade? I mean, how do you do it?
Well, you have to have a really good vocabulary for curse words to start off with. After that, it's worth getting a decent editor if you can. I personally use Premiere, Adobe Premiere. I know some people prefer Vegas. I haven't actually looked at that, so I have no idea which is superior. People starting out can use, they tend to use the free stuff that comes with Windows, like Movie Maker, or Macs, which is, iMovie, something like that. Mm-hmm. I know iMovie's actually pretty good, but Windows Movie Maker is, it's kind of a tool of the devil. It's really bad, and it's really frustrating, and I think probably a lot of people who would be really good vidders and have a lot to contribute probably actually get a bit disheartened and never put their videos out because it's just so horrible to use. So yeah, get a good videoing software if you can. But otherwise, I mean, it's not, apart from the obviously the software, the editing software like Premiere or Vegas, it's nothing particularly special. You don't need to have all this complex stuff. You don't need to know a whole lot to get started. you can just pick up most of the stuff, and even Premiere has a trial period, so you can see whether you like it or not.
I was just learning a little bit about that myself. Kind of got me watching some of yours and some of the other vids, got me a little interested, and I was realizing from the helpful folks like you said that a lot of the tools are right there at no or little cost. So that's great.
Yeah, I mean there's quite a few tutorials. When I first started vidding, I wouldn't say I was stupid, but other people might. I didn't read any tutorials because I have this thing about I love figuring stuff out. So it takes me twice as long to do anything as anybody else because I don't read stuff. But at the time, the tutorials weren't really out there. Well, they were, but they were a bit above my reading level, frankly. So, but now there are masses of tutorials out there. So a quick search on Google or in the clamshell. I know there's a LiveJournal one as well. There's a place where you can just go and find out exactly how to do what you need to do, and you're off.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Like you said, that's the power of the internet and the ability to be anywhere and everywhere and express yourself.
The whole vidding scene is pretty much exploded as well, so everybody's kind of vidding. It's brilliant. I don't have time to watch all the videos. That's part of the reason I'm not quite on doing the clamshell anymore. Was I didn't have time. But I used to go in there and you'd get maybe 3 or 4 new videos a week, maybe, and now you're getting 3 or 4 or 10 new videos a day, and that's just fantastic. I'm wondering how many people are out there doing it now, and you probably, the sheer amount of man hours going into it, that's brilliant.
There is so much more video that I'm seeing on the Farscape side than some of the other fandoms.
It's huge, yeah. Probably the only one that would really give it a run for its money is the Buffy and Angel fandoms, Buffy particularly. So the Scapers, they just have a huge amount of energy for everything. I think the amount of fic they put out is amazing as well.
Maybe you could talk a little bit now that you mentioned it, the fanfic side of things. Is that something you're involved in as well?
Yeah, sort of. I don't know whether there's somebody called Wormhole Weaver that would be listening to this, but I have an unfinished story that's been unfinished for about a year, and this one person has been trying various forms of bribery to get me to finish it, so I really have to do that. But I'm certainly not as involved as so I've written, I think, maybe 4 or 5 stories, maybe. So it's not really my main area at all.
Now, is that different from a creative point of view than the video side of things?
They both come from the same place in the sense that you shouldn't be doing either unless you've got something to say. And I think occasionally people do them even when they don't have something to say necessarily. I would say they have some big similarities, but they have some big differences as well. With vidding, especially when you start out, you're not really bringing anything of your own to the table apart from your perception of what's already there. So you might recut the scenes in a different way to highlight something, or focusing on a single theme. But you're not actually, say, bringing anything new to it, and it takes an inordinate amount of creativity. And I'm not saying it doesn't, God knows, I know that, but with fiction writing, you have to kind of bring it all to the board, because you have to translate the characters, you have to get them right, you have to bring in the plot, you have to get that right, and then you have to write well as well. It's yeah. I would say it takes a lot more out of you writing, but I'm sure somebody else would turn around and say that it's the complete opposite. So I'm thinking it very much depends on the person.
As far as having something to say, is that a kind of a creative impulse by making the videos? Is that what you kind of see yourself as doing, or is there some other kind of creative nature that makes that satisfying to do for you?
Well, I think vidding in general a lot of the time is about illustrating something, and something, either you are trying to say something through the vid, or you're trying to highlight, as I said, something in the vid and bring it to the attention of other people. And that to me is meaning you have something to say. But sometimes, and I will quite freely admit this, I make a vid with absolutely no higher goal in mind at all, and I just want to see if I can make a new effect, or what happens if I try cutting it like this with this kind of music. Can I actually make a vid worthy of an epilepsy warning, that sort of thing. I think some vids are quite highbrow about what they do, the same way that some writers are very, they want to be worthy of the source. They think, you should respect what you're doing. And I have every respect for people who do that. Unfortunately, I'm just not one of them. I'm in it to see what I can do and what effects I can make and how I can pull something off that maybe I haven't seen pulled off before.
Are you planning any more Farscape vids, or is that kind of run its course for you, or do you envision anything there?
I don't know. Every time I declare I have done my last vid in the Farscape fandom, I think the last time I declared that was about 5 Farscape vids ago. I think the first time I declared it was my second Farscape vid, and I've done about 20-something at this point. So I doubt that I will ever make my last Farscape vid. But that said, I don't want to make any more unless I have something I can contribute. There are so many brilliant videos out there now, and I honestly don't think I have an awful lot to add to the pool. So I'm quite happy just watching them at this point.
It's so nice for those shows that have finished their run, on TV and such, to still be able to keep that energy alive by you folks doing the vids.
I'm amazed that the Farscape community is not just alive, it's growing, isn't it? I mean, even the Firefly community, they really got it in, and they kept together, and they made it for the movie and whatnot. But it took the movie to get their community growing again, and Farscape is growing. Peacekeeper Wars was ages ago, and it's still going up. So it's got to be a hell of a show for that.
Oh, absolutely. That's part of the fun of the podcast here, is being able to go out and reach even more people.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course you've started a podcast. Wow.
Anything else you want to share with us before we finish off today?
Actually, can I give a plug to something?
Sure.
It's just that people may have seen it a bit on the Terra Firma board. I'm running a charity endeavour, a bit of a charity drive, auction, whatchamacallit, called Sweet Charity, which we started off in March, and it's actually finishing in the end of June, but we're starting again in July. And we had a few scapers in it, and it was brilliant. We raised over $2,000 for the charity, which was RAIN. And so I was just wondering if I could give a plug to say we're starting again in July. It would be great if people would sign up and to offer to sell themselves and their fanish creativity. That would be brilliant.
I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. It's been fantastic, and I really appreciate that.
Fun. Thank you.
Kevin, that was a really great interview. How did you like talking to Lithium Doll?
Oh, that was really cool. I must say, as a scaper, being able to talk to another scaper that everybody knows so well from a lot of the stuff she's done in the past, and the passion for what she does comes across, I think, as you heard in the conversations. The quality of the recording may not have been the best, but it was really just a pleasure, I guess is the word that I think of the most when talking to her.
Lithium Doll lives in the UK, so which one of you guys had to get up early for this interview?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I mean, I'm on the East Coast, so it's only like a 5-hour difference over there, I think. And she was actually gracious enough, being more of a night person, to stay up a little later, but that was a bit of a challenge when it came to setting up the time to be able to do it.
I want everybody here who's listening to know that you can find links to Lithium Doll's work in the show notes.
Farscape is an escape from the ordinary frill of ordinary life. And I am David, the evil genius from Calgary.
And now we have another Farscape episode review for you with our regular reviewers, Professor Rotwing and Fred. They're back once again, and here's their take on IET.
Dude.
Good evening. My name is Professor Rotwang. You can call me Professor Rotwang. Welcome to the second installment of Heckling from the Balcony. Tonight we are reviewing the Farscape episode IET.
So, Rotwang, dude, you came back for the second episode. Looks like they bit off more than they can handle compared to the outstanding premiere, though.
Professor Rotwang. Frader, what are you talking about? This episode was wonderful.
Making a TV show must be like surfing, dude. You ride the wave, and sometimes it's a wild, fun ride, and sometimes wipe out. This IET episode, wipe out.
That is ridiculous. Your analogy is false. I thought it was spectacular. So much slower than Premiere, and very straightforward. The directors, writers, everyone made sure that everything was clearly explained. And if you missed it the first time, they explained it again.
Exactly my point, dude. The show had nice writing, but it was poorly executed. The director made dull choices.
No, you are incorrect. I appreciate the slower pace, and they finally put the science back in science fiction. This episode had a better plot than the last episode. To send a crew looking for something to fix the ship. Now that's more like the sci-fi I was expecting. Find the alien gadget to fix the ship. And Crichton, he met a beautiful alien female on a planet, and he almost got the girl. But he is committed to a ship, and he must return.
Dude, I think you saw a different show than I did. Hunting for that alien tech, that was just the B story. The main story was Crichton and their version of the movie E.T.
What are you saying? There was a B story? I think you got water on your brain when you were surfing.
That's the episode's name, IET, dude. It's a play on two things. The story, I, Claudius, and the film E.T. Crichton's eye twitching was a nod to Claudius. Claudius had a stammer and an eye twitch, and was always dismissed and underestimated by those around him.
Crichton's eye twitch was a nod to I, Claudius? How could I miss that? Perhaps I should pay more attention to this show. But this Crichton fellow, he isn't as capable as Claudius. He is easily dismissed.
But Crichton was the one to figure out they needed to muffle the beacon sound. And he figured out how to use the gadget that would find the chlorium they needed to help Moya.
Granted, he was not totally useless, but he was afraid. Again. Is this man ever going to rise to the occasion? Is he always going to be so trepidatious?
We do see Crichton afraid when he's separated from his friends, but, dude, I think I'd be afraid if I was lost alone in the woods on a strange planet and being chased by who knows what. Speaking of the chase, the scene of Crichton, Dargo, and Aaron when they were being hunted in the woods was a nice homage to E.T. The flashlights, the dogs, the rifles reminded me of the movie. And then again, when the boy hid Crichton in his bedroom.
What are you talking about? E.T. was an alien who got found by a boy.
And Crichton is the alien who gets found by a boy.
So, what you are saying is the writers just switched the audience's perspective from the human finding the alien to an alien finding a human. Well, at least those hack writers stole from a good source this week.
Yeah, but the execution was poor. Like those scenes with Dargo and Aaron in the tree. What was Dargo doing with his hands behind Aaron anyway?
I don't know. I fell asleep during that part where Aaron and Dargo were rambling about some war. They were still in the tree when I woke, so I had no trouble following the story. Maybe whatever they were doing wasn't important.
That is my point. You missed nothing by napping here and there, 'cause nothing was going down.
We can agree, can we not, that Zan was the real hero of the story at least. She was so strong and brave to take Moya's pain, and she was so astute and diplomatic the way she recognized that Rigel was afraid he'd hurt Moya. She understood his fear, and yet was able to convince him that in order to save Moya, he had to hurt her.
Dude, that's it! Rigel and Zan were the main story in this episode.
That is what I've been telling you. Not only did Zan and Rigel find the beacon in the first place, but they were the ones to remove it. Crichton and Dargo returned after all the hard work was done by Zan.
Yeah, dude. Zan was even the one to find Dargo's bone knife that wouldn't set off the beacon's defenses. You know that was a circumcision knife of Dargo's, right?
What? What are you talking about?
Don't you remember?
This is a Tokar knife. Do you know what ceremony young Luxon males use this for? On themselves? At that certain age?
At least I think it's the Luxon equivalent of a circumcision knife.
Yes, well, interesting. However, I think you have the wrong perspective on this episode. The story wasn't about Crichton and Dargo and Aaron playing footsie in the bush with the natives. The story was about Zan and Rigel working together to save Moya.
Still nursing that crush on Zan, I see.
You're ridiculous. She's an alien, and she's blue.
Zan handled Rigel quite smoothly, dude. She's a righteous babe worthy of a little crush.
Yeah. I still say this episode was amazing. What about those visual effects? The Rigel flying on his throne sled, Moya sailing across the water before landing in the mud bog, and then again at the end when she rises above the trees and flies low across the pond again. Spectacular and very beautiful.
That explains it. They blew all their dough on visual effects. That's why they didn't have anything left to make the rest of the episode work properly. Wrong priorities.
I don't know what you are talking about. The performances were wonderful. Those Zan and Rigel moments really made me connect with the characters. And when Aaron was concerned for Zan's ability to take Moya's pain, I began to see that Aaron is not always the tough, inflexible warrior she appears to be, although she does her best to deny it.
The direction in those scenes was good. I thought the female alien scientist was excellent. Her scene with Crichton, where we see how quickly the trust falls apart and the weapons come out, that was a real shift in energy and emotion, dude.
Lack of trust. That is the theme throughout the episode. And of course, those alien military types were untrustworthy. They captured Dargo straight away.
Crichton did a share of misrepresenting the truth too, you know. He pretended that he had chosen to land there so the female alien would cooperate.
In science fiction, the hero always has to make up a story so the aliens will trust him. In this case, the alien female would have blasted him or handed him to the alien military. Those alien military fellows were probably going to kill and study Dargo, so he made the right choice.
Yeah, the alien military was doing exactly what our military would do if they got a hold of a real alien. They'd capture it and start poking and prodding, and maybe kill one and dissect it.
Should aliens come to Earth, we would have no idea whether to talk to them or kill them before they eat us. Better to shoot first than become some alien's breakfast snack.
Or dinner. Remember in the last episode when Zan, your beautiful blue girlfriend, said it was time for something to eat? Crichton didn't know if he was going to be a dinner guest or the main course.
Zan is beautiful. And she's not my girlfriend. But as I said, wonderful episode overall, from what I remember of it.
It had some pacing problems, but there were some good character moments, don't you think? And that touching moment at the end of Crichton looking longingly at the planet and missing his home. A rather Capra-esque moment.
Who? If you say so. That is all we have time to discuss this time. Thank you for joining us for Heckling from the Balcony.
Until next time, I'm Frater.
And I'm Professor Rotwang.
You know what really confused me though, dude? If this was the first alien contact, how'd the alien female and the kid understand Crichton?
Maybe she had translator microbes. But then how did she get them? Isn't that exactly the alien technology that this planet wouldn't have access to? You see, this is exactly why I said the show needs some background.
Listen up, you maggots. Are you tired of the so-called normal people ragging on your favorite science fiction show? Are you tired of people looking at you and saying, Buffy the what? Then have I got the organization for you. Become a digger today. Download Sci-Fi Dig. It's the podcast all about science fiction, fantasy, and everything in between. That's SciFiDig.com. You'll dig it. Now drop and give me 50.
It's kind of like Louisiana. Or Dagobah. Dagobah, where Yoda lives.
Who's Yoda?
Just little green guy. Trains warriors.
Huh.
Hey, wait, I got a couple of questions. Couple of 1,000 more questions.
Question of the week.
This week's question, what we had for you was, what is your favorite John and Scorpy or John and Harvey moment? And also, you may have noticed for those who visit the website, we actually have a new way that you can get your answer to us. It's called the Talk to Us Now button. And what that is, if you have a microphone on your computer, you can simply go to our website and you'll see that button that does say just that, Talk to Us Now. If you click on that, it'll open up a page where you can literally record a comment. You don't have to have any recording software or worry about things like that. It's just another new way, an easy way for you to be able to share some comments to us without having to pick up the phone, especially for the international listeners. Trying to make things as simple as possible to get everybody's ideas in their own voice.
And I have a little special project for all you Scaper listeners out there. You can also use the Talk to Us Now button and sing the theme song to Farscape. Won't that be fun? I've been singing it every day now when I listen to Farscape.
Okay, well, I haven't gone that far yet, so. But whatever works. You know, it's certainly have a little fun here, folks, so we'd love to hear whatever your thoughts are on these questions or other topics.
Hi, I'm Sammy from the ScapeCast. I don't think I have a favorite John Scorpy moment. There are just so many. But I do have a favorite John Harvey moment. It's from Crackers Don't Matter. And it's not a pizza and margarita shooter scene. It's the one in the hallway.
Revenge is a dish best served cold, and you like revenge, don't you, John?
I hate it when villains quote Shakespeare.
That one always cracks me up, because it's not an actual quote from any of Shakespeare's plays at all. Since this is the first episode in which Harvey actually appears, and they seem to get down to the early years of great literature to a time when everything was about manipulation and revenge, I thought it was a great way to tie Scorpius to those standards by using what seems to be a Shakespeare quote. Even though it's only a short moment, it gives insight into a well-spoken character. Of course, Harvey must have picked a quote out of John's head, but why did he choose something that John associates with Shakespeare and not just simply said, "You like revenge, don't you?" It seems to give Harvey a higher intellectual level. Scorpius realized early on that he cannot battle with John on the same level as he does with his other enemies. In a way, John demands an opponent on the same intellectual level than himself. He does not want to battle on the battlefield. He wants to battle with intelligence. Scorpius needs to show him he's a worthy opponent when it comes to that. And that scene when his Nora clone started to quote old literature was when John seemed to realize that he indeed had an enemy out there who not only could fight him with weapons, but also with words.
Jarek posts, Frel. Yet another question and answer with content from only 3 and a bit seasons, not to mention that TV movie that can't be mentioned until a certain individual has experienced the pain and upset that is the season 4 finale. There are many important and dramatic scenes with John conversing with either Scorpius or Harvey, and there are quite a few that are downright hilarious once Harvey gains a measure of independence. But my favorite would be when Harvey first takes steps to protect John during the episode Won't Get Fooled Again. It's not perhaps the most exciting scene and certainly not funny, but it is significant to the overall wormhole story arc and the lengths that Scorpius will go to, especially when Scarrons are directly involved. If we are talking just side-splittingly funny, then Scorpius firing the rifle at the Karishi, and of course its power plaque was depleted, and in that deadpan tone.
Thank you, John.
And the reply from John.
You didn't expect me to give you a loaded weapon, did you?
And then in a slightly hurt tone.
Well, yes.
Hi, this is Kim from the ScapeCast, and I don't really have a favorite John and Scorpy moment, although I really love the pair of episodes Into the Lion's Den. There's so much good stuff there. I'm sure a whole bunch of people are going to name, but my favorite John and Harvey moment comes during Promises, where they land in John's head, they're dressed like reservoir dogs, Harvey's got a gun, John takes it away and says, "Damn it, Harvey, guns are dangerous, man." Then he takes the cigarettes away and he says, "Ain't no smoking in my head." That right there always makes me giggle a little bit. And then later on in Peacekeeper Wars, when suddenly they land in John's head. They're dressed like crash test dummies, and they're inside a Mustang just like one I used to have, and they've both got lit cigarettes, and without a word, John takes Harvey's cigarette and his own, and he flings it out the window. That just makes the connection between Peacekeeper Wars and Promises to me. I always smile at the cigarettes. And anyway, I'm sure everyone's going to name the bunny suits. The bunny suits are great. And when John first figures out he can beat up Harvey and throw him in a dumpster, that's great too. But I think for me, it's ain't no smoking in my head. Oh, I always love that. So anyway, that's the quickest way to my heart. Make me laugh. And John and Harvey in my heart. And that's my favorite. Bye.
Salanthea writes on the ScapeCast forum, John Harvey has to be with Harvey 2.0 from We're So Screwed Part 3 La Bamba. The whole scene where they're cop and bad guy, I just love that whole interaction. And then for laughs, nothing beats the bunny suits. John Scorpio would have to be the end of a Constellation of Doubt when John asks for his help. How broken John is, so sad and yet so fantastic to see. I also love the end of Peacekeeper Wars, just before John fires the wormhole weapon.
I think one of the most notable Scorpy Crichton moments is at the end of the first episode of the Liars, Guns and Money trilogy. Scorpius has Crichton by the throat, both literally and figuratively. Crichton, through his teeth, grits at Scorpy.
Since I got you here, tell me, what the hell did you put in my head?
And Scorpius, in that reasonable, chilling tone that is his trademark, explains that it is a tiny chip, a seed that has been growing inside Crichton's skull, ferreting out everything that makes Crichton Crichton, taking over his mind. But this is Farscape, and that scene doesn't end with that major revelation. Not a chance. At that moment, one of John's doctored cooling rods chooses to malfunction, and Scorpy is now battling furiously against something that his mortal enemy had put in his brain. We get a fabulous scene between Scorpy and John, a battle of wills between two formidable opponents, plus incredibly slashy subtext. John is barely able to maintain control. He is hanging on to sanity by a thread, shrieking, not singing, the Star-Spangled Banner at the top of his lungs. That scene is so well acted and so well written that it doesn't matter how often I see it, it always sends chills down my spine.
Question of the week.
And I appreciate there in Jarek's comments talking about a certain individual who hasn't experienced that pain. And I think he's alluding to me, which I appreciate. But yes, I now have the pain. I have seen the season 4 finale, so I can appreciate where that one's coming from on his thoughts talking there about won't get fooled again and several other things there. But I did have to do the la 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 thing on the very last comment there because it talked a bit about that thing called Peacekeeper Wars you keep alluding to?
Doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's right. So I can't comment on that one. But for me, the favorite John Scorpio moment, and I started thinking about this earlier in the week when I knew we had a few, now that I'm actually able to think through the whole 4 seasons and all. There were several, but I just kept going back, as I do on some of my other comments, to the very first one, back when Scorpius had John in the chair, the Aurora chair, for the first time. That was such a great, I almost want to say, it was an introduction, really, to Scorpius and the whole idea of the new bad guy, after we'd had Crace in there for a while, kind of as the figure to hate at the beginning of the series, and then things started to shift there. So I just thought that was so very well done, and we got to see inside John's head and everything else there. I really thought that might be my favorite, just because it kind of made me realize we're going in different directions now with the series.
Yeah, I understand that the writers and producers decided that Crace was too one-dimensional to keep as a bad guy, and they needed somebody who was really evil, so they had to come up with... Oh my gosh.
There were
he
no
scared
grays
everybody.
on that.
I think that's the episode where my son decided he was not going to be an astronaut anymore because it was way too scary when you went into space.
Yeah, they could use that one in the NASA training films. Do you want to experience this?
Yeah. When you talk about relationships, and I know that in episode 5, that was our question of the week about all the relationships, and there's pretty general agreement that John and Aaron is really central to Farscape. But really, how could you even have Farscape without John and Scorpy and Harvey? Because that's the conflict. Well, aside from all the conflict with Aaron, that's really how he gets his jobs and how he lives his life, is trying to deal with Scorpius, especially starting in season 3 and 4. Anyway, that's my opinion. But what really made me sit up and take notice and at least start to realize that we're going to have fun with Harvey was when I saw the two of them in tuxedos waiting in front of the Mack truck trying to hitch a ride with somebody.
Yeah, that was yeah. Now you say that, I love how that thought now comes flowing back all at once.
Yeah, and that Harvey was not going to be so evil as Scorpius, and John is able to turn his tormentor into something with a lot less dignity in order to make it work for him and deal with his life. So I like that.
Yeah, I liked it too when he first put him in the dumpster. You got a chance to see it a little more range there when he thought he had some control over him.
Now, for all you listeners, I'm going to let you know that the next question for episode 7 of the ScapeCast is, what is your favorite hilarious moment in Farscape? And this could be any moment from seasons 1 through 4.
Welcome back. At the beginning of the show, I asked you who those two men were in the men's bathroom in A Human Reaction. Well, they were none other than the director of the episode, Rowan Woods, and Anthony Simcoe, a.k.a. Dargo. Check back next week for another question. For the ScapeCast, I'm Brent Barrett.
This episode has been brought to you by the words Hasmana and Squag.
Hey Kevin, I snuck a peek in the writer's room, and I'm really excited about the segments that are coming in the future episodes. Here's my little spoiler alert, in case you don't want to know what's coming up in the ScapeCast. But some of the working titles are Aliens, Muppets, and Wormholes. Oh my. But Kevin, not for you.
No,
not
yet. Not yet. Okay.
Almost. Farscape the Guide, which is going to be a riff on The Hitchhiker's Guide and My Lovely Dolphin Friends. The Rebirth in the Uncharted Territories, and of course an introduction to Stark.
Yeah, it's some great stuff. Nicola, our head writer, has really assembled an awesome group of writers for the ScapeCast, and it's been great seeing some of the samples there. We're all looking forward to hearing some of that and getting those deep perspectives on all the story arcs and some other great topics that are going to be happening throughout all the later seasons of Farscape. I know we've covered on some basic stuff here in our first few episodes, so we're going to start, now that we've got our feet under us, to get into some really deep stuff that I know a lot of the experienced scapers are really looking forward to. Now that I've seen the end of Season 4, I can say, me too. I don't have to do the la-las too much.
It's less than a month to go before Comic-Con, so I'm really looking forward to that and getting ready to go.
And don't forget, folks, to keep sending us your answers, question of the week, and some feedback on the show. And give a try to that Talk to Us button there. If you got a microphone on your computer and don't want to pick up the phone, it's a great way to get your voice out here so we can get it on the show, too.
Well, thanks again for joining us as we continue our journey. I'm Lindy.
And I'm Kevin. And now it's time to disable your comms and find new wonders. Until next time.
This is John Crichton. Somewhere in the universe.
You've been listening to the ScapeCast, Episode 6, produced June 2006. Writers for this episode were Lindy Ray, Kevin Batchelder, Nicola Wood, Brent Barrett, Mark Vollebeck, Sammy Moore, Wendy Hembrock, and Kurt Armbruster. This episode featured voice performances by
Lindy Ray,
Kevin Batchelder,
Kimberly Thompson,
Hank Schiffman,
Brent Barrett,
Wendy Hembrock,
Sammy Moore,
Ken Chapina,
Myron Wiles, Kurt Armbruster,
Nicola Wood.
For the entire ScapeCast crew, I'm Brent Barrett. Thank you for listening and fly safe.